Hey guys, in this video, we're going to be changing the overhead mid console from this to this. Now let's get this thing started. Now for those of you guys who are new to this channel is dedicated to all things engineering and DIY for your Toyota Tacoma and Overland build. So make sure you smash that like and subscribe button already, guys. Do it now.
Do it! Just do it!
My name is Carl, and I have a 2009 Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport, fully locked with ARB air lockers and 35-inch tires. I do also have a four-wheel camper that I take off from time to time when it comes to off-road driving and heavier wheeling. These kits that we'll be installing today will be available at my store, so make sure you check that out at store.kflow-crib.com. And these kits will come in as raw material or partially assembled. This project is very good for those of you guys who are just starting out with doing your own DIY work. By following along the simple instructions that I lay out in this video, you can gain confidence and skills to take on bigger projects. Now let's get to the removal of that overhead console. And for that, we'll be using one of my previous videos as a reference.
And now we can remove this plastic assembly up here. First we'll open up the sunglass container, and there's a Phillips head screw that we just undo right there. At this point we can just pull the front end of it and it should just pop right out. Just don't pull it out yet completely, since there are wiring harnesses we have to disconnect. And those are the two wiring harnesses, guys. All it is we need to push down on the top here, and this pulls right out. And here's a better look at those wiring harnesses, guys. As you can see, it's just locked by that little tab up top. Same with this one, there's that little tab right there.
So here is what the area currently looks like, guys. As you can see, if you haven't been following this channel, I do have a new headliner, and I do have these wires that are hanging out here. And I get into that detail more in my previous headliner and side curtain airbag series, so make sure you check that out. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is clean up this whole area with alcohol and also spray paint that whole area underneath black. This is optional. This is really up to you, but I want to make it look really nice and have most of this area hidden. Now this is the wire harness for the thermometer and the map lights, and I have it tucked right here behind this visor. Now I'm going to use this piece of cardboard to work as like a painting mask so that I can prevent as much of the overspray as possible. All right, so that's what the metal is gonna look like right off of the plasma cutter. And dry it off real quick with some rags. This is the bottom side. As you can see, there's this stuff called dross, and that is basically molten metal that gets stuck on the lip of the cut. So here's a closer look on the dross, and it's fairly easy to remove. We're gonna use this cold chisel and a hammer, and it comes off like that. See that? Very easy. Just a little time consuming. So all we gotta do is go around, clean this up. So you can see we got most of the dross out. There's a little bit more that we're gonna be able to knock off probably with wire wheel or sanding. But I just want to point out that there will be a little bit of surface rusting, and that's really not a big deal. We'll use the wire wheel and also knock off any of the dross that doesn't come off. It's starting to look like that statue of David that we're sculpting here. Looks great. Now if we take a look a little closer, there might be some burrs on a few of the holes, and all we gotta do is take a round file and then just knock those burrs down, and it'll be basically as smooth as how you want it. Now some of the edges might have a little bit of dross and a step into the cut, and same thing, we just take our file and then just round that off. And if you have an angle grinder, this will definitely make quick work of smoothing this portion out. And here's another one. A little bit of a step right there. Boom. That's it. Now there's definitely going to be a nicer side to this MOLLE panel. And we want to make sure at this point that the nicer side is down. And then we take our monkey wrench here and then just slowly bend up the sides, as you see here, a little bit at a time. We want to bend it up at about a 30 to 45 degree angle. This will add some stiffness. Boom. That's one side done. We'll just do that 3 more times. Look at that, guys. Definitely looking really nice. Here we are at the ceiling of the truck, guys. And now we can take our dog bones, which is basically a stud with 2 flange nuts on each side, and have the flange nut basically go in and have the stud stick out maybe about a 1/2 inch. And we take our flange nut here and we just fish it behind until he can line it up and see it on the area behind the slot. And we just take our stud and screw it in. Screw it in lightly. We don't want to fasten this down yet because we do have to make some adjustments. So we'll finger tighten this nut here in the front. And we want to push it more towards the outside, as you see here. Just like that. Same thing with the other side. Just like that. Now let's take that procedure and basically apply it to these upper holes here. And just screw that stud in place. Remember, you don't want the stud to reach the actual roof. So give it a little bit of an air gap, maybe about a finger's width. All right, now we can also release this cable and then just test fit the MOLLE panel right on those studs. So you can see the studs have lined up, and the purpose of the flange nut is actually to prevent this MOLLE panel from getting pushed all the way back. And here we can make our adjustments. We'll just back out the MOLLE panel slightly on this one, because I want the MOLLE panel basically to sit on this flange nut and not on the headliner. We'll back this out a little bit, and all we're doing is fit checking this. See that? Now it's almost there. We want these studs to only protrude out maybe a 1/3 of an inch, because we'll have another nut on top. So I'm pretty happy with that and the positioning. I'll probably bring these out forward a bit more. Let's test that out again. There we go. I think that looks pretty good, guys. And if we're happy with that, we take our 11mm wrench and then just snug these down. We're holding the stud and snugging down the nut behind, in front of it. So I'm holding the stud and snugging this down so it doesn't move. And now we have a solid bracketing point for the MOLLE panel. So there's the studs. Here's the first solid test fit that we can do, so you guys can really see how good this looks so far. I'm not gonna put the other two yet, but man, I am so happy with how this is looking so far, guys. This is gonna look real sexy once we got this painted and we got all the other accessories on here. So I just want to point out, guys, when you do tighten up the studs in the back, you should be able to easily line up these slots as you see here. There's these two side slots up at the top, and there's these more horizontal slots here, more towards the bottom. So these studs, you can adjust the position. So I'll loosen this nut back here, and if it's not fitting properly, you have some leeway for adjustments so that each stud can line up properly with the proper hole. And the sheet metal, you can see there's a slight bend to it, so you can more open or move it left and right as you see fit. But these studs really should align very well with the slots on the MOLLE panel. I have the MOLLE panel suspended in the garage. I already cleaned all the surfaces with alcohol, and now we'll spray paint it. Essentially, we want to start with a light coat, and then we'll go a little bit heavier each time afterwards. And I'm going to go with a total of 3 coats on this, waiting probably about 5 to 10 minutes in between. All right, now it's definitely a good idea to submerge your spray paint can in hot water. This is just tap water for about 10 to 20 minutes so we get a nice fine mist out of this can. So here is what the back of the overhead console looks like, guys. We will need to remove the outdoor ambient thermometer and compass, and that's very easy. All we need to do is take a T10 bit and just undo these 3 screws behind it. Don't lose these screws because we will be reusing them. And if you don't have that thermostat portion, then there's actually an option where you don't have to buy this part of the kit. So this kit allows you to take that electronic device and basically mount it on the MOLLE panel. So the bracket itself will look like this. You mount the electronics on top, and then we just reuse these screws as they line up perfectly. Remember, don't over tighten these screws, guys, because this is going into plastic. So just snug them down so it's secure. You don't want to crack the plastic. Look at that, like a glove. So here is the map light portion of the kit. It'll come with 2 of these lighting grates, and this is the backing piece for the LED panels. So we take our backing pieces and we just take some alcohol and clean up that surface real nicely. Now that's dried, we can take the adhesive off of the back of these LED panels, and it should be pretty tight fit between the panel and this backing piece. It should look like that. And this backing piece does slide right behind the lighting covers themselves. And as you can see, there is a groove where the little pigtail comes out. It should snap right in. It shouldn't easily come off But if you wanted to take it off, you can actually just lift this front portion slightly and push from the back. See, 'cause that's how it's designed. There is a little snap lock right there. So lift and push, that gets it right out. But otherwise it shouldn't just slide open. We'll do the same for the ladder end. So here's what the MOLLE panel looks like after it's been painted and cured. I'm very happy with how this came out. So we'll take our MOLLE panel. It will come with these two buttons. So we'll have to just remove the nut off the back of these buttons. And then we'll feed the buttons through the front of the MOLLE panel. Just like so. Now we can flip it under. Lightly screw those in. And now let's orient it so that the black wires are in the same direction. So I have the black wires pointed towards where the thermostat hole is. Then we'll just snug this down with a 14mm wrench. Remember, just snug these down, don't over torque them. All right, so now let's mount the light boxes. These light boxes should be oriented so that the pigtails go towards where those switches are, just like that. And I'm gonna flip this around so that we can mount it. And I have it propped up in the back so you guys can see me mount this. And it should look just like that, guys. So for this portion of the installation, we are going to be using the black screws with the black washers. So it'll be combined. And we'll screw in the 4 corners. Start with 2 opposing corners first. Snug these down. Remember, don't over torque them. Same thing, you don't want to crack the plastic. Feel free to back it out a little bit just to readjust it so that the lighting system itself is pretty square to the hole. And we'll just do the same thing to the other side. Oh man, that's looking real sexy, guys. Now let's reinstall this thermometer portion. Same thing. 4 screws, 4 washers. Again, don't over tighten those screws. Jeez, that's looking so good, guys. So now let's get to the wiring, guys. And this whole project is designed so that if any of these panels burn out, you can easily replace them by lifting up, as I showed you earlier, and then sliding it from the back. And you can always use a small flathead screwdriver in here too if you're having a little bit of difficulty. So now we'll connect these pigtails to the LED panels, matching black to black, red to red, like this, for both of the LED panels. So, not bad. And now we'll connect all the black wires together using wire crimps. And I'll show you a technique to make it a very solid, very permanent connection. So I'm pulling these wires up so that they're about the same height, cutting them at the proper height. Same thing on this side. Now let's strip them so we have about a 1/2 inch of wire exposed. Just like that. Now we can twist these together. And we can also fold it in half after we twisted them together. Next, we can take our wire crimp and basically feed it into the ferrule, crimp them in, and that's a solid connection. That's definitely as good as soldering. That's not gonna come off on you. And on the other side, going to be doing it a little bit different because we will be using the pigtail for the opposite side. So that's, those two are twisted together, and you will have this pigtail in the kit. There will be a male side. So this, the one with the yellow tip, so we can trim this down actually. We'll need only about 4 inches of this. So separate that out. Expose the wire there. Just these together. Fold this in half, so look like that. And then put it right into the ferrule, just like that. And we'll crimp that as well. There, rock solid. That's definitely not going to come off anytime soon. We can take our lighter. I usually use a heat gun, but most guys don't have a heat gun, so I'll just use the lighter. Crimp that thing so that it's nice and tight. There we go. Now that's a professional connection. So we got that side done. Now let's take care of everything else. So the reds, we'll just pull away from the switch for now, just like this. Then we'll have 2 of the blues that are outer. I'll pull that away from the switch as well. So the 2 blues that are inner, this is what will connect to this red. So again, we can measure rough height there, cut that, make it nice and neat, and then we'll take off the sheathing on the wire, just like that. I'll do these 2 ends first. Twist them together. And fold it in half. Crimp it on. Just the middle one this time. And boom, look at that. Now let's do this side. Put that down. Always want to tug just a tiny bit just to make sure that thing is a solid connection. Now let's take our lighter. Not that bad boy. So what do you guys think of this project so far? Definitely a little on the tedious end, but you will definitely learn a lot of skills if you tackle this. And done. Look at that. Now this part will essentially connect the red wires together and the opposing blue wires. So remember, these 2 grouping of wires will stay separate. So we'll start with the one on my right. Measure and cut so they're about the same length. Then have roughly the 1/2 inch wire sticking out. This time we're gonna twist the blue wire and the red wire going into the panel. Twist them together. Fold in half. The wire crimp that I would recommend will be in the description below. Because this essentially swedges these ferrules so that it isn't just a regular crimp with like needle nose pliers. It bites on multiple ends, so those connections can never really be undone. Just connect it to this end. Yeah, you definitely don't want to burn up the wires. Just enough to melt that shrink wrap. Last one. Now for this kit, I will be including the wiring diagram and all the pertinent information you need to put this together when you purchase it. So there is an option, as I mentioned, to buy this fully assembled. It will cost a little bit more because it does still use up some of my time. So now I'm basically just looping these together, and I'll probably zip tie them onto this bracket here to keep everything nice and clean. You don't want to block this harness because we will be needing this front area clear, so I think that's good. Now let's test this out. So I have a power supply here. I know many of you probably won't have one, so you can test this out using car battery if you have a car battery handy, or you could just test this out right on the ceiling before you completely fasten them together. So I got my ground connection, my 12-volt connection there. Turn this on. Connect that side. I'll flip it around so you guys can see. Let's put some juice in this bad boy. Got 12 volts coming through. Bam! That is bright. Look at that. Very nice. I don't know if you can tell right there, but the grating allows the light to only be shot in one direction, so it doesn't really spread as badly. I am very happy with this. This came out looking great. Show that to you again. Bam! Bam! All right guys, so here we are at the overhead MOLLE. This is the ceiling of the truck, and these are our wires. This wire is the one that goes to the outdoor thermometer and compass. This is the map light harness. There is this wire here that's white with a black stripe, and the other one is just solidly white. Now I did use my multimeter to validate this. The one with the black stripe is the ground, and the white stripe is the high. You can double check this with a multimeter as well, or you have the 12-volt LED light. You can put it here too. You can actually get one of the panels and then just do a rough wiring to make sure that your connections are right. Just match the black wire to this black striped wire and the red wire to the white wire. So we'll do the same thing. We'll just cut it right at the harness. We'll strip that about a ½ an inch, and we'll twist it, fold it. Remember, you would want to do this one at a time so that we don't short the two together. Take our crimper right on there. Double check, that's snug. Then we'll do the same thing here. Twist first, fold in half, crimp on our connector. Now we'll take our pigtail we probably only need about 4 inches here. So I'm gonna cut off this excess here. So we got them stripped, taking the red wire, twisting them, folding in half, putting in our crimp connector. So this is the white one. Then we'll crimp her down. There we go. Last one is the ground. I'm going to pull this sheathing back so we don't shrink that. And that's it. That's definitely a solid connection. Give it a light tug. That's not going anywhere. So now let's do the final installation here. We'll start by plugging in our thermometer, our map light wiring. See if we can do it one hand. Plug those in. Oh yeah, both of them are working. Now let's line up the slots. I have future plans for all the wires hanging out, so just stay tuned on that. We'll start with the bottom here. Put in the nut here. And as you can see, one is actually enough to hold it in its place. Put the nut on the opposite side. And now we can put in these angle spacers. These are the ones that will have a loop on them. So if you drop it, it's easy to find. Push that back. And that allows the nut to be mounted flush, since there is a slight angle to these studs. And then the other angle spacer. So now we just snug it down so it's not loose. Remember, don't over tighten these. Snug them down enough. And also we can test out the thermostat. Yes, look at that, guys. This thing came out amazing. Now let's hit this with some B-roll. Now what's really good about this MOLLE project is that these slots on the MOLLE panel are very much compatible with all the ball mounts that I saw in my store. So you can mount your radio hangers, your GoPro, or whatever your heart desires. Now let me know what you guys think about this project by leaving a comment in the comment section below. And if you do finish one of these projects, please make sure you tag me on Instagram at kflow_Tacoma. I'd love to see your finished projects. Now, big shout out to Engine Xterra. He just finished installing one of the universal mounting brackets for his ARB bumper, and those new fog lights look great. Now, it did take me quite a while to design and finish this project for you guys. So please make sure you smash that like and subscribe button, because it really does help out the channel. Now, if you wanted to learn more when it comes to 3D printing, plasma cutting, designing, or anything in between, please leave them in the comment section below as well. I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to wish you all a happy and healthy new year. And until next time, peace out, everybody.